Take it off. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order a regular meeting of the Board of Education of the Goshen Central School District being held on Monday, March 4th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. in the District Administration Building and being live streamed on YouTube. Will everybody please rise and join us in the flag of the United
States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next we have privilege of the floor. I don't have my usual green sheet, so I'm going to read the statement here on the sign-up form that you've all signed. Statements involving individual district personnel by name or by title or students are expressly prohibited. Persons listening to discuss matters involving individual district personnel or students should present their comments or concerns to the superintendent during regular business hours. All speakers are to conduct themselves in a civil manner. Obscene language, libel statements, threats of violence, and statements advocating racial relief or other prejudice will not be tolerated. Interruption of the board, superintendent, or speaker is not permitted. 4 minutes and a timer here for you tonight. And first we have Catherine Goshen.
Good evening, Seth.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, great. Good evening to the Goshen Central School District Board of Education. My name is Catherine Gardner. I am a parent, educator, and proud member of the Goshen community. I would like to acknowledge and share my appreciation towards the amazing teachers and related service providers who have taken such wonderful care of my children throughout the years. Additionally, at the beginning of the school year, my husband and I received email communication from PPS to ensure that the transition to 4th grade was going well for our youngest daughter. While we were grateful for the outreach and concern, we did not always have this supportive connection. Unfortunately, the process of receiving an IEP for our child was a long and often frustrating experience. Our journey began in December of her 2nd grade year in 2021 and wasn't officially resolved until February of 2023 when we brought legal representation to the CSC meeting. For 2 years, we participated in 3 eligibility for special education meetings, 1 mediation DRC, and 2 504 meetings. In addition, there were countless emails, meetings, intensive AIS services, parent-driven private evaluations, ADHD and anxiety diagnosis from our pediatrician, 2 invitations to participate in Gladiator Games summer program, and multiple assessments conducted by the district. Although we were disappointed to not attain an IEP, we were thankful that the committee did accept the clinical diagnosis of problematic, mild, dyseidetic dyslexia. At the beginning of 3rd grade, we were thrilled to hear that our daughter would be receiving one-on-one Orton Gillingham instruction. Unfortunately, after only about a month, we received notification from the school that the district employee had a change in her schedule. It was expressed that the employee had to focus on services to those students with an IEP. This was the very document we worked so hard to obtain, and we were denied on multiple occasions. The entire process with PPS was a long and drawn-out affair. Even our annual review for the 4th grade 2023-24 school year did not occur until the teachers were back in school for a professional development day, less than a week before the first day of school this year. After hearing the details of the educational journey with our child, we would like to ask the following questions to the Goshen Board of Education. Number 1, how would a community member that does not have the education or funds to pay for an outside evaluation achieve the proper instruction, diagnosis, and resources for a child with dyslexia? Number 2, how are we using the data from the previous year's state test to better approach and achieve higher scores on the ELA? As of last year, less than 29% in 3rd grade, less than 39% in 4th grade, and less than 43% in 5th grade scored at a proficient level. Is there a reading program that is practiced with fidelity to all grade levels to address reading difficulties? Does a specific Wilson or Gillingham reading class exist for those who have been diagnosed with dyslexia? If so, is this available from grades K to 12? Is it Choose Love curriculum and calming spaces in all of our schools? How are we celebrating and recognizing all capabilities to create an inclusive and supportive school community? And how do we support our exceptional learners? Do we have a gifted and talented program in our district? I cannot emphasize enough that these questions are not an attack on the district or a so-called witch hunt for any particular staff member or organization. It is simply a call to action to rethink district policies and procedures. Let's work together to improve our learning culture where growth is the core value and rethinking cycles are routine. Let's strive to be a school and working environment with psychological safety for all of its members, where speaking your mind is welcome and not feared. Let's be a district that has confident humility to admit that we are a work in progress. Let's continue to grow as a community that values inclusiveness and pursues lifelong learning with multiple educational journeys. Thank you for your time and attention, and I look forward to hearing from you soon with answers to the questions above. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much. Next we have Jared Quattrani.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I would like the board and the superintendent to know that you are privy to the subject matter of what I am going to address this evening. Speaking here tonight publicly to put it on record. It has come to my attention, as well as many other concerned parents in the district, that our arts department, especially at GHS, has endured cuts to its staff and curriculum over the past several years. According to recent data, Goshen has one of the highest number of students enrolled in art classes compared to surrounding districts, while ranking last in available art credits and student to teacher ratio. This understaffing and lack of curriculum has led to overcrowded classes with little or no options for continued study with regards to eager upperclassmen. I know this because our daughter will be a senior next year and has exhausted the arts program that is available to her that suits her strengths. After attending the recent Scholastic Awards ceremony at SUNY New Paltz, I was in awe of the talent that exists not only in Goshen, but our surrounding counties. It is validation that all students in our district should be given every opportunity throughout their K through 12 schooling to pursue their love of art. Whether that love comes from passion, creativity, curiosity, therapy, or necessity. My wife Cassie and I are blessed to have not one, but two children who are creative and talented in multiple mediums of the arts. I know that some of this is a natural born gift, but I also know that these gifts need to be guided by dedicated, nurturing teachers and administrators who give them the opportunity and support for creative expression. This is why I implore you to hear the call of families and staff alike. Years ago, we came together to vote on a massive investment in our school district, for much needed infrastructure upgrades, a grand STEAM lab, a complete overhaul of our beautiful Roy Reese Theater, and of course, our Coliseum. I asked this board and our superintendent and voters in our district to grant the very small request of your arts department. It pales in comparison to the size of the accomplishments I have mentioned above. Please find a way to increase our students' exposure to art in any form. It is the least we can do. And if you have not done so already, please fund the arts. Thank you.
Moving on to our next item, the president's report. A few items tonight. First and foremost, just want to offer some congratulations. We had some great showings from our students. We had a few track athletes that made it to states. The Out of State Line competition was just this past weekend, and we'll have some further points about that from Dr. Coates. I see it on his agenda, but quick congratulations to all the owners out there. Also in the line with congratulations, Dr. Castellane brought up a few points that I'd like him to speak to now.
Thank you. As we know, there are several Goshen residents or students who play for the Washington Hockey Club. And I just wanted to offer congratulations to the JV team, who swept the championship and took first place in their division against Saugerties High School. And the varsity team as a runner-up for those Goshen athletes who play for them against FDR. So I just didn't want their hard work to go unnoticed.
Thank you very much for pointing that out. Tonight on the consent agenda, we actually have quite a few retirees, and it takes a lot of folks to run this district in all different aspects and regards. But I just wanted to take a moment because it's really had me reflecting on the hard work that our teachers do. They really are our first responders, if you will. They handle the needs of our students on a daily basis, and parent emails and concerns. They really are our first resource for all of our students. So just want to say a quick thank you to them. They are much appreciated. And lastly, we are continuing work on putting together a format for our community roundtable meeting. Right now, we are looking to have the meeting prior to the regular board meeting on the 18th. Dr. Coates has been working with a representative from BOCES to really find the proper format to ensure we can have a productive and positive meeting. So we look forward to getting out some further details on that very soon. And that'll be coming up on the calendar as well. And that concludes the items I have on my president's report. Moving on to our next item. Any legislative update? Mr. John Sullivan?
Our next meeting is Wednesday this week, so look forward to something for next meeting.
Thank you very much. All right, do we have any board committee reports?
We've been slowly going through the policy, that's gonna be an update continuously probably for the next year or more. So it's a slow process, but we're getting there.
Fantastic, and just to add to that, later on in the agenda, we have a few policies that we will be updating, the second reading and readoption. Those policies are purchasing procedures, investments, workplace violence prevention. So I will read them as presented, but those are the policies that we will be updating. All right, no other. Very good. Moving on to our next item then, the superintendent's report. Dr. Curtis Coates.
Thank you, Mr. Loftus. So I wanted to follow the board briefly from our last meeting. I had an opportunity to speak with Land Associates after they came to address the board regarding our GIS roofing project. Mr. Riley, our engineering director of facilities, had an opportunity to meet with Land to get caught up on some of the work that they were doing immediately when he started. And in doing so, they informed him that applications from school districts that went in September for facilities improvement projects are now starting to be opened and looked at. We are hoping that ours will rise to the top of the list, if you will, because it is a smaller project. It's only roofing and some small mechanical work on the top of the gym suite. We're optimistic that we're gonna see an approval soon because we're coming up on spring break when the potential contractors always like to get in when a building is quiet to be able to do some of that work. In tandem with that conversation, Mr. Mildemout reached out to the Omnia Bid Cooperative. They are willing to hold the pricing that they've offered us until April, and then we would find ourselves in a position where we'd have to reevaluate if we don't have an approval at that point. That puts us out at almost 30 weeks from application, which is unheard of. We're right back to the worst of the approval queue as it had stood in the past. We're trying to stay optimistic that we're gonna have it in hand soon, but I wanted to give an update on where we stood after Mr. Dunn met here last week. Odyssey of the Mind, as Mr. Loftus had shared, had an opportunity with some of our administrators to go and see all of our teams compete. If you've never been to a competition, it is absolutely an amazing thing to watch the way that the schedule is run, all the rooms are coordinated, the kids just fall right in line, the students really just know exactly what to do and where to go. I had an opportunity to see 3 of our teams bouncing from room to room. I'm pleased to announce that we had one first place team, Coach Losey's team, if you will, who will be moving on to states as a first place winner. And then 3 of our teams, based on their placement, won lottery slots, and they will be moving on as well to state. So Coach Losey, Coach Seligman, Coach Losey's second team or GIS team, and Coach Florentmane's team will be moving on to the states in Syracuse. We're so excited for them. The student energy that comes into these projects is nothing short of amazing. And we are so excited to see what they will do next. And then obviously we're always ambitious and keep our fingers crossed that we have a team go to the World Finals in Iowa as well. But again, it was an incredible experience just to see all of that come together again this past weekend. Well, the weather is fooling us. Sometimes in March you see snow, sometimes you see the beautiful weather, but it is musical time. And if you've been by one of our auditoriums in the middle school or the high school, both sets are up and in action, and see some great ambition of all of our students to put on incredible productions coming up. Not this weekend, but the one after. We're looking forward to our CJ Hooker players putting on Annie Jr. So we wish all of our middle school students, Ms. Loftus and everyone involved well as they get ready. And then shortly after, the high school group led by Mr. Quinlan, Ms. Scully, will be putting on SpongeBob the Musical this year. Kids I used to hate and showed, fully honest, when they were little, but it'll be really interesting to see it in a musical, and I am certain that it will be a great production. Final piece before Ms. Lamoran gives the non-instructional budget presentation for tonight. As I had shared with the board previously, one of the things that we are watching very closely for this year is our revenue projection. That's going to have a great impact on what we're able to fund or not fund in this year's budget. We are faced with a very significant deficit for this year compared to previous years. We are actually at right now, according to the governor's budget proposal, at about a $400,000 loss in revenue from where we stood last year. There's been a lot of scuttlebutt from the legislature on what may or may not be. I've spoken with many of our elected officials, and they have been vehement and adamant that they're going to reject the governor's budget. But nevertheless, we don't have anything in hand which we can plan with that's any more concrete than the executive's budget proposal. You'll hear that common theme that we are worried about revenue for next year. That doesn't mean that we're not going to roll up our sleeves and look for creative ways to make sure we preserve our programs. But it will be a very different fiscal year than it has been the last couple of years, where we have seen significant revenue increases with the settlement of the foundation aid lawsuit that happened that allowed for the formula to be fully funded. So before I turned it over to Mrs. Lamoran, sorry, I didn't mean to crump any of your thunder, to give the non-instructional budget presentation, I just wanted to really stress that it's been a challenge. We're hopeful in the next couple of weeks that we're going to see something from the legislative branch that gives us some more positive and concrete information, but it is what we are planning with, and you will see that reflected in the next 2 budget presentations before we get to the point where we have to put a concrete budget in front of the board for eventual approval. So turn it over to Mrs. Lamoran for this.
Please go ahead.
Tonight, we're going to be going over the non-instructional section of the budget. We had a budget presentation at the last board meeting where we reviewed the revenue side of the budget. The next board meeting, I'll be presenting the instructional side of the budget. Then on April 8th, we have the budget presentation for revenue. Hopefully it'll be a final revenue presentation pending the adoption of the budget by the state, if it is on time. April 22nd, we can propose the revenue again at that time if there is a delayed budget by the state, because we do need to have the budget adopted at that time by the board in order to file the property tax report card on time and also get our budget memos out, or our budget newsletter, I mean. And then have the public hearing on May 7th with the annual vote on May 21st. When we develop the budget each year, we use the budget, the board goals in order to develop the budget, and we also plan to use our strategic plan as well. We use the goals of the board, the creation of a district facility plan, the creation of an action plan for the electrification of the bus fleet, and the adoption of the policy audit. I know that is ongoing right now, and as you mentioned, it will be another year before it's complete, but we also have that being updated now. The strategic plan, our strategic plan, as you know, is posted up here, so I'm not going to read through what we are using in the development. Yeah. We also have other goals in mind when we're developing the budget. We want to continue to ensure the highest quality teaching for our students and continue to provide a safe environment for them as well, and as well for staff. We want to maintain adequate staffing, and for capital project planning and facility maintenance and upgrades, we do want to continue this as well. We've been doing a transfer, interfund transfer for the last two budgets into the capital projects for items such as the GIS roof. It's a perfect example of why you want to continue to have this transfer in there to address items that are small enough to do on your own without having to do a big project and have debt on the books. We also want to do this and maintain financial stability. We don't want to use all of our reserves or our fund balance in order to bridge any budget gaps. So it's really quite the balancing act if you put those two together, those two items. And we want to stay within the tax levy cap. This year I showed the levy cap calculation at the last presentation, and the percentage is 5.49%. A lot of people still confuse it with the 2% levy cap. It's really not 2%. It's a calculation. It could range from less than 0 all the way, for example, this year to 5.49. It just depends on everything in that calculation. We also adjust the budget lines to reflect our expenditures, and you'll see a lot of that this year because we did look through each budget line for efficiencies to see where we could bridge the gap for our deficit. And then we have transparency in our budget club. Some of the considerations and challenges that we're facing this year are, as Dr. Coates mentioned, declining state aid. We have been fortunate enough over the past 3 years to be fully funded, phased in on the foundation aid. But now this year, I don't know if you recall in the last presentation, there is a decrease in our foundation aid of almost $400,000. And we go from getting increases of $3 million, $5 million to a decrease of $350,000 to $400,000. It really makes you sharpen your pencil. So we have that to deal with. The tax levy cap, we always have to be cognizant of staying within the cap. And with rising CPI, that again is also difficult right now. CPI is 4.1%. Just a few months ago, or maybe at this time last year, it was 8%. Enrollment, we have seen fairly steady enrollment for the last 10 years, but it has declined over that time. Staffing and benefits, these are increasing costs that we have to be cognizant of. BOCES services, BOCES increases their costs as well to us. They pass that on to us because they can't have a fund balance. And just as our costs rise, so do theirs in staffing, benefits, supplies, etc. One of the things that we do is look at, do we need to subscribe to BOCES for a service? And typically the answer is yes. We'll do a cost benefit analysis to see, is it cheaper to go through BOCES or pay for it on our own? But because we do get BOCES aid of about 63%, it does pay to go through BOCES for services. Curriculum and programs, this year we have changes according to the state with the science of reading that we'll have to address. Our growing student population in the special education department, we have that to contend with this year. And there's the facilities capital transfer. Again, we would like to keep this in the budget, or at least part of it in the budget, to help us with repairs that come up over time. So that another good thing about this is we do not have to borrow and pass that cost on to the taxpayers for debt service and interest. It's nice to be able to pay cash. Technology, we have to replace aging technology. It may not be as much one year as another, but we do have to have that plan, and we do have a Chromebook replacement plan that we are currently following. Debt service, again, we want to keep that level. And then the favorite unvended mandates, the things that we don't know are coming down the pipe that are not funded by the state. Shake it like. Thank you. So the non-instructional section of the budget is made up of 8 sections, and this is the side of the budget that does not directly impact the instruction of students. There's 8 sections listed up above. We have Board of Education. This also includes the district clerk and the budget vote expenditures. Central administration is where you'll find the superintendent and his office expenses. The finance section not only includes the business office, but also auditors, financial advisors, tax collection, and the treasurer. Staff and personnel includes our HR department, human resources, legal services, records management, and communications. Then we have central services, which makes up a big piece of this budget, and that's including our buildings and grounds costs, our postage, our courier, copiers, copying costs. We also have our data management system in here and servers and all the costs associated with that. Special items, this insurance listed up here is actually for fire, theft, liability, rather than the benefits piece, which we'll see further down the line. Dues, school district dues for like the Mid-Hudson School Study Council, for example, or NISBA. Then we have judgments, tax refunds, which are your tax certiorari's. So if somebody wants to contest their appraisal or their assessed value, we may have to refund that money. We do so through here. And then we have BOCES admin, capital, and rent fees. This is where you'll find the project costs for their capital project. We're in year 2 or going into year 2 of the 3 phase-in for their project, for that expenditure to be driven on. Pupil transportation, this is where you'll find our costs for transporting all students, as well as the garage where they maintain the buses. And then last but not least is undistributed. In here you'll find employee benefits. So that includes FICA expense for the employer, workers' compensation, health insurance, dental insurance, also all retirement costs. Debt service includes our principal and interest for our building project as well as the library. And you'll see when I present the revenue side of the budget, you'll see the revenue coming in to offset their debt service. So it's really just a flow through. It's not the expense for their project. And interfund transfers, this is where we have lunch transfer in the event that they should run a deficit. We have a transfer to the federal fund for 20% of the costs for summer school for special ed. The state aids us at 80%, but we have to pick up the 20% difference. And then we have the capital, we have 2 transfers. We have the small one for the capital outlay project of $100,000, and the larger transfer right now is a little over $1.1 million. Sorry. So here are those 9 sections, and I've taken the current budget for 23-24, compared it to the proposal for 2024-25. There's dollar change and the percentage change, and I'm just going to highlight some of the increases or decreases in this section. For the Board of Education, we do have a small increase, and that is for the software through BOCES. And for the supplies and staff for the voting of the budget. Central administration, we have some increases here as well for BOCES and salaries and supplies. Finance, we have an increase here, again, it's based on salary increases. Salary increases that I mentioned throughout here and the instructional budget of contractual obligations. I've had to increase the audit services this next year for the auditors, our external auditors, more than our internal auditors, and it's largely because of the grants that we've been receiving for the educational stabilization funds. We've had the CRISA, the ARP, and the ESSER grants, and that has led to a lot more work on the part of our external auditors. So I did increase that. We have this last year of that where they will have to do required reporting on that. Next, I have the staff section of the budget. Here you'll see a 17% increase or $82,000. The biggest driver here is due to legal fees, also some BOCES increases, and just the BOCES increases and the legal fees. Central services, here's where you can see that we've sharpened our pencils and gone through each line because we were actually able to make a small reduction here. Less than 0.5%. It is due to breakage. We do have some breakage from retirements in this section. And looking at the postage and the historical data for the last 5 years, I was able to decrease that line item. And there's also some other small items that I'm going to mention that led to this decrease. Special items, our insurance is going to be increasing for next year, and that BOCES project that we're going into year 2 of is the driver for the 11.3% increase. Pupil transportation, this is a significant decrease, a little over $1 million or 20%, and that's because we've removed the buses from the budget. These were put into the budget 2 years ago, and rather than borrowings, we've paid cash for the buses for the last 2 years, but we've actually taken those out. We feel that the fleet right now is status quo, and with the electrification of buses coming down the pike, we don't really want to spend money on new buses if we don't have to, and we want to see what else is out there for the electric buses too, before we commit to that. We also need to see what we're going to have to do for bus garage as far as the project goes. That to accommodate these buses. Another item that was reduced in transportation was the BOCES contract. They pick up our special ed or our private students and transport them. And one of the things that the director has done is pulled a few runs back so that we could do them in-house, and that has saved us some money on the BOCES side. Next, we have undistributed. The benefits portion of the budget is projected to increase 8.2%. We have a 4% increase in our health insurance, a 2.1% increase in the employees' retirement system, and TRS, which is the teachers' retirement system, is less than 0.5%. These are all included. One of the things when we do the non-instructional budget, it includes the benefits for both the instructional side of the budget and the non-instructional staff. So to make that clear. So it's the benefits for the entire district. The debt service is pretty level. That's because we don't have any new debt coming on the books, so a small increase, again, less than 0.5%. And the interfund transfers. So right now, we do have the capital transfer in the budget, but it will be one of those things that we will have to consider because of the reducing state aid. How can we continue to keep this in here? We really want to. See a new version of the non-instructional budget as we receive more information and complete the instructional side, but that could change. Right now, I do have a decrease of $75,000 though, and that's for that federal fund transfer for that 20% of the summer school costs, because our costs have not been as high in the last few years. And for next summer, which is this coming summer, which covers this budget, our numbers will remain the same as throughout the school year. So our total non-instructional budget proposal comes to $41,222,010. That's a 2.3% increase or $915,369. Now, I just wanted to put a visual out here for you. I like the pie charts because they're easy to look at and understand. And what this shows you is what each of those 8 sections make up out of the non-instructional section of the budget. We do have our small ones, the Board of Education, central admin, under 1%. And we have staff, finance, and special items, also very small, if you can see them there. Our next smallest is transportation at 10.4% and central services 15.4%. And the largest section is undistributed and that's 66%. And that falls in line with what we've said all along, and you've heard probably from other people in other districts that benefits and salary typically make up 80% of a budget. So this is mostly benefits because that makes up the largest part of our distributor. Now, these are the codes that you'll find in our expenditures throughout the non-instructional budget. And you will find these on your budget status reports. The instructional salaries, these are members of the teachers' retirement system, so that's why you see TRS noted next to it. And non-instructional salaries, these are members of the employees' retirement system, which is the ERS. Equipment is self-explanatory. Contractual, this is where the 400 codes are. These cover legal fees, the auditors, conference costs, repairs in the buildings and ground section of the budget. This is where the dues are and various services that we subscribe to throughout the year, not to be confused with BOCES, which has its own code, and then supplies is self-explanatory. Debt service, principal, and interest you'll find in the 600 and 700 codes. All of the 800 section is for the benefits, and then 900 is interfund transfer codes. And here are those codes broken down also with a comparison to the current budget and the proposed change and proposed percentage change. Salaries are projected to increase 2% overall throughout the non-instructional budget, all of the salary codes accumulated. Equipment, there is the buses that have been removed, 810,000. And also our technology department was able to decrease one of their line items under the data section of the budget, which is where we've been upgrading servers. So that is what is contributing to the $810,000 decrease. Contractual services, again, this was the legal fees, and our auditing services is the biggest majority of the driver, 3.7% increase. Supplies, we just have a small decrease here, 2.6%. BOCES services, that typically, I mentioned before, BOCES increases in most of their services, but because of the decrease in the transportational contract, that is what the driver is in the decrease here. And then under other, which is our benefits, driving the 6.8% increase, you can see other two were fairly flat or declining, the $75,000 decrease in the fund transfers. As you can tell when you look at these, you can see where we're trying to make cuts as much as possible without hurting program. And here's a pie chart of the expenditure codes and the different amounts that make up the non-instructional budget. At the smallest amount is supplies, 2.4%. And the largest part, again, is the other, which is where you'll find benefits, debt service, and interfund transfers. Second highest here, we have the indicated salary code. And here's a major summary of the major changes. Just as we have increased costs and salaries that are contractual obligations, we also have decreased costs because of breakage, not to be confused, but I hope that makes sense. The same thing with BOCES, the BOCES capital project, we have an increased cost over there, but we also have decreases because of the transportation contract. Health insurance, Medicare, FICA, TRS, ERS, all of those are increasing. And these costs, we also have our bus purchases and e-rate project. Some more unknown factors that we're still waiting on information for: declining revenue, state aid, Again, we may have to make more adjustments to this section of the budget again before we present the final to you, depending on our state aid. Any enrollment changes we have to plan for. Although we have kindergarten registration, summer registration, people could come in and we could see spikes in our enrollment. We do have to build some contingencies in the budget in the event that these should happen. And we have to be cognizant of the increasing CPI and the unfunded debt. Here again is the grand total of the proposed non-instructional budget. 2.3% overall increase. And just for some history, last year for the 23-24 increase was a total of $2.7 million and 7.4%. Smaller increase for next year. We did want to update you with some changes in the state aid. I found that when the governor's numbers came out in the executive budget, that they did not include all of our BOCES expenditures. The Mid-Hudson Rec, we did spend a significant amount of money with them for the security upgrades. And those were not included in the aid projections. So I was able to get that number and increase our expense-driven aids, which is the second one down, that increased $500,000. And now we are at an increase of 1.9%. At the last meeting, our increase was 0.3%. So it's not enough to get us to the end, but it's more than we have, so. And last but not least is our mission statement. We also have that posted on our website. And if anybody has questions, we have our contact information up here, and we will post this presentation also on our website for the budget tab. Anybody have any questions?
All off the top of your head, what our total contribution to the OC's capital improvement project is and how long these are out of.
So I do have a long sheet like this. Total payments, and they're projected right now as well. I do know off the top of my head, the increase for this year was $115,000. And next year it's projected to go up about $600,000 at this time. If that helps.
So I know you mentioned that tax cap is 5.49, meaning that's the most we can go up to. Has there been discussion, and maybe I missed it, as far as what we're currently building the budget off of right now? Are we using that tax cap number?
We haven't discussed that yet. We're just building the budget, and then that'll be something we bring back to the board to discuss.
And then, and this would be for upcoming meetings, so I don't need an answer now, but instead of saving it for later, this seems appropriate just to ask now. When we get into more of the instructional side, I'm just curious to find out, now that our art funds, and I believe we use most of the other funds for our unit ventilators and so forth, but when we get to the art funds, anything that was placed into the budget that was being funded using these federal funds that are now going to be absorbed into the budget, or if there's anything that would be dropping off due to a lifespan, a term appointment, et cetera. I'd just be curious to know what those changes look like. And last time I did mention, and again, this is more for instructional, when we get to that portion of the budget, I'm just looking to see where we are as far as looking at the future with, we've heard a lot about multi-sensory learning approaches with students, and the continuum, not just in the elementary and middle school, but also the high school as well. So I would like to kind of see that we are continuing that momentum and looking at that specifically, and that's included. Again, questions for upcoming meetings, but instead of asking it there, I figure discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. Moving on to our next item, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction, Personnel and Technology Report, Mr. Jason Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Loftus. Good evening, everyone. Just a couple of brief updates for you. We'll begin with science reading update. So if you recall, Dr. Coates and I had a chance to attend a great workshop at OU BOCES just a few weeks ago, where we went through all of the literacy briefs and had a chance to work with colleagues from across the county through all of the topics. So BOCES is continuing on and offering more professional development now for those building leaders. So we are well aware of what BOCES is offering at the moment, and we're hopeful that they'll continue to expand. So our team will be attending and looking to continue to attend in the near future. I also noticed that currently for those local BOCES employees and select groups, they did begin some of the micro-credential cohorts. So we're also hopeful that they'll begin to break those out and offer them to the larger groups across the county. We'll keep our eyes open for that and begin to take some recommendations from our building level leaders to get individuals who are into those cohorts. It was mentioned earlier that our students were very successful at Scholastic Arts. And I know that we had covered that in a previous meeting as well. So we did have an opportunity to reach out to all of our art teachers, and we had asked that they begin to display all of those submissions that won awards for us. So throughout the entire facility, you have probably over 30 or over 35 select pieces of art from the high school and the middle school. So I would encourage you to take a good look at those before you leave. They are wonderful. It's, again, just proof that we have extremely talented students throughout the district. March 1st through the 3rd, which was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we did have a few individuals perform for the New York State Band Directors Association. So I just wanted to congratulate Tanner Conklin, who was chosen to perform with the high school honors jazz band. Again, a great honor. And not more importantly, but it's very important to mention that for the first time ever, we had middle school students actually have the opportunity to perform, which is really special. So I wanted to congratulate Lucas Collishaw and Logan Rediker, who both played with the middle school honors band. So again, great contributions from our students in music and the arts. We wanted to also thank all of our teachers who were responsible for preparing them for that. Also, today was the day that the Joe Sugar Day events took place. So if you recall, in a previous meeting, I had discussed those that were selected for that. In this situation today, Michael Lombardi performed with the All-State Jazz Band for that event, which is really special. So we just wanted to once again congratulate him, but today was his day to perform with the larger group. Mr. Pantaleone and his team had talked to you in the past about the NABIT training, which would be our anti-bullying initiative, anti-harassment initiative at the high school. So we have 2 cohorts of 25 students that will begin their training at GHS on March 12th. So they'll go through 3 different training sessions, and we'll keep you informed how that is going. But we're very happy that we have 50 students in that initial cohort. And of course, we'll have some staff training. More importantly, with this NABIT training in this cohort, you have individuals that will eventually turnkey this to the greater population of the high school and beyond. Finally, I wanted to mention that we had an opportunity tonight to meet with all of the families that were able to attend from the UPK lottery. So those 54 families that were selected, Dr. Coates and I had a chance to meet with them at Scotchtown Avenue to really give them an overview of the program, to talk about the teamwork that we're looking to have, the collegiality that we're looking to have with On My Way, to continue the collegiality. And we just highlighted the program for them. Of course, Mrs. Fuentes and her team handled a lot of the question and answers. And I think it was a great turnout, a lot of excitement there. And I think we have a large amount of appreciative people in our community. So just wanted to thank the board for the support of the program. And we wanted to thank Mrs. Fuentes and her team for what she does daily. No, conclude my report. Oh, I apologize. Doesn't conclude. I know Dr. Coates and Mr. Loftus had mentioned OM in our musical, so just wanted to congratulate our OM teams, our participants. And of course, I wanted to thank all the coaches, primarily volunteers for their hard work, very long duration. And I wanted to say good luck to all of those who will be participating in musicals, both on stage and stage crew. And of course, I want to thank you all for students in the play and the sing. Back to this part. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me, I know we're not supposed to ask a question, but you said there's 50 students or 25 students that were selected for the anti-bullying and
There's
anti-harassment. How does that work? Or I forget.
Can we save that until the comment section to not really break the protocols, maybe? Yes. Excellent. Try to stick to that. Still a privilege of the floor on them too. Thank you. Moving on. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda. Reverend John. Resolved that the Board of Education hereby arranges special education programs and services based upon the recommendations made for preschool and school age students with disabilities by the Committee on Preschool Special Education, CPSE, and Committee on Special Education, CSE, during the period from January 24th, 2024 through and including February 14th, 2024, and directs the district to arrange for the provisions of said special education programs and services to such preschool and school age students with disabilities as recommended during such time period by the CPSE and CSE. Be it further resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education accepts the retirement of Jan Van Haeg, Teaching Assistant, effective July 1st, 2024. Ms. Van Haeg has been with the district for 20 years. Be it further resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education accepts the retirement of Donna Meany, Teaching Assistant, effective June 30th, 2024. Ms. Meany has been with the district for 27 years. Be it further resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education accepts the retirement of Stephen Donachie, Social Studies teacher, effective June 30th, 2024. Mr. Donachie has been with the district for 35 years. Be it further resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education accepts the retirement of Kathy Chlorfane, elementary teacher, effective July 1st, 2024. Ms. Chlorfane has been with the district for 24 years. Be it further resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education accepts the retirement of Pamela Murphy, music teacher, effective July 1st, 2024. Ms. Murphy has been with the district for 10 years. Be it further resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education accepts the retirement of Christopher Haller, guidance counselor, effective June 30th, 2024. Mr. Haller has been with the district for 23 years. Be it further resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education accepts the retirement of Edmund Long, head custodian, effective July 7th, 2024. Mr. Long has been with the district for 27 years. Be it further resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education accepts the retirement of Mary Ann Gazer, Social Studies Secretary, effective May 1st, 2024. Ms. Gazer has been with the district for 12 years. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education accepts the retirement of Thomas Gilbert, teacher, aide, student supervisor, effective July 1st, 2024. Mr. Gilbert has been with the district for 20 years. Be it further resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education accepts the retirement of Deborah Sheets, teacher aide, effective July 2nd, 2024. Ms. Sheets has been with the district for 10 years. Be it further resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education accepts the retirement of Shirley Molina, teacher aide, effective June 26, 2024. Ms. Molina has been with the district for 10 years. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education approves the remainder of the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, congratulations and good luck to all those retirees with your next chapter. Before we move on to our next item, based on past conversations, I didn't hold a moment to read policies. As we said, everybody would be prepared, just wanted to make sure nobody needed extra time for reading. Okay. Fantastic. I need a motion to approve policy updates, second reading, renumbering, renaming, and readoptions. Scott and Ashley. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the second readings, renumbering, renaming, and readoption of the policies as presented. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? I need a motion to approve minutes. Billy. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the minutes of February 12, 2024. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I need a motion to approve overnight trips for Goshen High School art students. Scott and Shannon. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves an overnight trip for Goshen High School art students to attend art museums, historical sites, and other local sites in Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts from April 19th through the 22nd, 2024. Be it further resolved that the board reserves the right to cancel or reschedule any school-sponsored trip or activity in the event of any emergency condition outside of the control of the school district and its sole discretion. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? I need a motion to approve this overnight trip for Model UN. John, Ashley. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the Model UN trip to New York City, New York, from March 13th through the 16th, 2024. Be it further resolved that the board reserves the right to cancel or reschedule any school-sponsored trip or activity in the event of any emergency condition outside of the control of the school district in its sole discretion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I need a motion to approve the proposed settlement agreement for tax certiorari. John, Billy. Be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Goshen Central School District approves the terms of a proposed settlement agreement in the Article 7 proceedings commenced by J.P. Morgan Chase North Grand Park LLC against the town of Goshen in the Orange County Supreme Court, which is docketed under the index NOS EF 003-701-2022 and EF 004612-2023. And be it also resolved that council, the school district be authorized to execute any and all documents in furtherance of this resolution. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Need a motion to approve budgetary transfers. Billy. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the following budgetary transfers in aggregate over $105,000. Fund costs for non-elected employee contributions for GTA retirees that retired in the 2022 school dated 2/22/2024 in the amount of $150,000. Opposed? I need a motion to approve Goshen CSD students to participate in trap shooting team at Vincent Valley Central School. Whereas Menacing Valley Central School District established the Menacing Valley High School trap shooting team under the rules of New York State High School Clay Target League, effective for the 2022 spring sports season, and has continued the team. And whereas Menacing Valley has agreed to permit eligible students from other Orange County school districts to register as a member of the team. And whereas Goshen Central School District has one or more students who are interested in joining the team. Be resolved that the Board of Education of the Goshen Central School District approves the participation of Goshen students in the Menacing Valley High School trap shooting team during the 2023-2024 school year. The 2024 spring sports season, with Goshen assuming the cost of Goshen students' participation on the team on a pro rata basis based upon the number of students from each school district participating on the team, as well as liability insurance and student activity insurance coverage for such students as members of the team, with the agreement that Menacing Valley will not be responsible for transportation of the participating students. And be it further resolved that a certified copy of this resolution be transmitted to the Board of Education and Superintendent of Schools of Menacing Valley Central School District. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? I need a motion to approve stipulation of settlement. Ashley and Shannon. Be resolved that the Board of Education of the Goshen Central School District hereby approves the settlement of the due process complaint filed regarding student number 03042024 in accordance with the stipulation of settlement on file with the district clerk, And be it further resolved that the Board of Education authorizes the superintendent to sign the stipulation of settlement. All those in favor? Need a motion to approve the agreement for special education services, nursing services. John, Jen. Be it resolved, the Board of Education enters into an agreement with J&D to provide nursing services for students in need of such services effective February 27th, 2024, August 31st, 2024, for approximately 10 hours of services per day at the following rates: $70 per hour for registered nurses, $65 per hour for a licensed practical nurse. Be it further resolved, the Board of Education authorizes the superintendent of schools to execute the agreement. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Do we have any additional signups for Village and Flora? Okay, very good. Moving on to board member issues.
If we had the question, can we do that now?
Can we just save that till after the meeting if you don't mind?
Oh, sure.
That would be great.
Oh, okay, sorry, I
I
didn't
appreciate
understand, sorry.
Just keeping it with.
Yeah, no worries.
Thanks very much for understanding.
Yep.
Any board members?
Just that it's been a little bit since we've had a safety meeting, and since then we've got a new sergeant that's here, new police chief, and even Pete Sorigliano, new commissioner of emergency services, so I think it'd be good to try to get us back together again and have a full meeting, invite the sheriff, any first responders that may be responding here to our districts.
Speaking of meetings, more if you don't mind, we need to get another facilities meeting sometime on the calendar. Thank you for printing this out. I had a few items for comments tonight. I asked Maureen to print out a portion of our code of conduct. Discipline. We've had some conversations regarding this, and I thought that we might want to revisit it. In the new code of conduct, we allowed for the expungement of discipline, and without reading the whole thing, the last sentence states, maybe it's worthwhile just read all. In the case of discipline in the nature of a short-term out-of-school suspension of no more than 5 days, no more than 5 school days or less, the student may apply to have the disciplinary record of such infraction expunged from their record by the Board of Education based upon subsequent good behavior, evidenced by the absence of further disciplinary infractions. Such an application may be made one time only during the course of the student's school career. Applications for expungement in a discipline that involves serious bodily injury, use and or possession of weapons, and illegal drugs, controlled substances will not be considered. I think we might want to go ahead and add into that last sentence, alcohol use as well. I think that's something that maybe read. Yeah, I agree. Okay. So we will just have that drafted up for next time around, and we'll go ahead and adopt that. Just 2 more points during the comments. This is open comment and question. One. Mr. Carter, in the past, you gave us a bit of an overview on our security team in the school. You also gave us an overview of the rollout of the new Happy and Late programs, trying to align the K-12. I think it would be great to hear about those in the future, how they're going. I think that it would be great to see how those programs are rolling out, some of the feedback. Also regarding security, I think that would be, a good point that Brett was talking about, the security committee meeting again, just evaluating how they're doing, the services we're getting, are they meeting our expectation? I think that would be an important conversation to have, and maybe hear some feedback from the building level as well. Great. And I had only one more question really, GIS roofing. Right now, it looks like it might be pushed to summertime. Do we know what the estimate was for the remediation?
So they will work while school's in progress, so it doesn't necessarily mean it will get pushed this summer, only because it's a roofing project. The goal is obviously to have them come in, the contractors are ready, that there's been constant communication between land and the contractors that are on the bid list. It's just a matter of getting them. I don't wanna say that's that the potential exists that if the investment could be able to mobilize quickly. Danielle Farrell literally checks the portal every day to see if the approval is there.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Okay, very good. I need a motion for executive session. John, Shannon? You resolve the Board of Education will enter into executive session with the intent not to reconvene the business portion of the meeting for discussions related to the history of particular personnel persons. All those in favor? Opposed? All right, thank you very much, everyone.